So we're kind of doing, we're recording on an Audible in case we're still practicing with the
Sure,
camera, so
sure.
we'll see how it goes.
Go. So can these record both tracks at the same time? Like.
Yeah, I can split all the tracks out.
Oh, so you can go to the camera?
But we'll overlay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That works.
Just we'll mute the video and then overlay this sound.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone,
Let's
welcome
do it.
back to Hunt Expo.
Yeah.
We're sitting here. It's Friday morning. We have our good friend Mark Livesay. Mark, introduce yourself,
My Missoula boys. Yeah. We had to come all the way to Utah to do a podcast. Because I was a total loser when we tried to schedule the last one.
I was sick that night. He was exhausted from like an 80-hour work week, so it's like, I'm good.
Big time. Yeah.
See, these 80-hour work weeks, those things, I don't know what those are. I'm retired from that. Paid my dues in my day, but no, I don't have to do it as much.
Well, it's appropriate that we're doing it down here. You know, we had to come all the way down here to meet, so it's like, all right, we'll just keep reconvening in Utah.
Well, I still want to have you guys over. I want to show you guys my llamas and my setup. I think you'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it.
So I'm looking. I got 12 acres out by the pulp mill.
Oh,
We're redoing all the ground, the oat alfalfa hay. And
like you're gonna hay it?
Hay it, and then it's just gonna be pasture land.
Are you gonna hay it and sell it?
No, I don't have any animals right now.
I was gonna say because I might buy it.
You can either buy it or you
My
can throw some llamas out there and let them
well,
graze.
maybe we'll do a trade. Maybe I'll do some grazing, and then you can have access to red. And because I am looking for a place to put a few llamas.
I got room.
So with llamas, you got two issues. You got your females. You have to keep completely separate. Like they can't even be in the same neighborhood as the boys.
Yeah.
You can't have them like across the fence. This ain't gonna work. They're way different than other animals. Like when I breed llamas, when you want to breed them, you just bring the boy down. There's no cycle. There's no estrus. There's no nothing. They breed when you bring them together.
They're like high school boys.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, whatever. And so then the other problem is when you wean the boys off of the moms, until they're about 2.5, you can't mix them with your bigger boys or it's wartime. They abuse them little guys. So now you can keep those with a fence, but so if you're going to raise llamas, you have to have at least 3 segments. And really 4, because when you start breeding, you have to keep the young baby girls away from the boys until they're old enough. So it's always something I got to deal with, right?
Yeah, you need property around.
Right. And so I manage it and it works fine with what I got, but I have 33 llamas now. So
Wow.
it's getting to be a little harder to do. And I'm going to have probably 7-8 babies this year.
Now, baby llamas are.
Do you guys have kids?
I do.
I have dogs, but
Yeah.
Oh, you'll have young kids?
7 and 4. Yeah.
A girl?
Boys. Both
Boys. Boys still, they like them too.
I
But
got nieces and nephews that would probably.
baby llamas are like high ticket items for kids, right?
They're adorable.
They're pretty cool. Yeah.
All right, so Tree Line Pursuits and Ridgeline Llama? Is that Ridgeline?
No.
The llama company.
Oh, I've tried. I was going to name my llama company. It's funny you looked at, man. You've been paying attention.
I stalk people a lot.
It's that's because that's not out there very much. Wilderness. So Wilderness Ridge Llamas is my buddy Bo, and so I was kind of going to go off something with that. We were going to do to back up. I'm not at the point yet where even though I have a lot of llamas, I have 9 boys that are going to pack this year. But up until that, I've had 5, and which is great for me, but I don't have enough to rent yet during hunting season. Because for a good rental, especially for elk, you really need 4 llamas to bring a full bull out and some gear.
Yep.
And so I just haven't been renting that much yet in the hunting season. I rent during summer trips and things like that. And then as much as we hunt between bear season and fall season, there's not a lot of room for me to. But now I'm finally getting enough llamas to the point where I'm going to be renting them in the coming years.
Nice.
So I was going to segment off my llama rental operations, but I just redid a whole thing recently. Treeline Pursuits is kind of my Instagram handle, but Treeline Academy is where I went and kind of consolidated everything to that brand.
Gotcha.
Because people were having trouble, like, okay, I want to rent llamas, where do I go? I want to get this course, where do I go? I want you to speak at this thing. Where do I want you to be on a podcast. So anyway, I put everything onto one. So anyway, it makes it a little easier for everybody to get in touch with what they want to get in touch with.
Well, and easier for you to manage.
Yeah, so I
it's
get
all
a
just one bucket now instead of okay, I need some out of that one and that one and these two.
well in my life. I've been an entrepreneur for 30 some years. I always love to tell this story. Like I've never had a job. I worked 25 years for an organ tissue bank, but I started in college doing recoveries. So I'm 58 years old. I have never applied for a job. I've never done a resume. I've never done a job interview. My life.
Wow.
So it's kind of weird, isn't it? And I've only had one job in my whole life that I got a W-2 on.
Yeah.
The rest of it is all me, just being entrepreneur. I love the entrepreneurship world.
Yeah.
You guys are in it now, right?
Trying.
We got our products here. You guys got your booth set up, and that's what I love. If you sit around, I know you work. What do you do?
I'm an accountant.
Okay, so no offense, but if you're getting a W-2, you're never going to get that far down the road. You'll be comfortable. You can make a good life. You can do a lot of great things, right? And if that's your jam, that's your jam. But if you want to go the step further, there's really two ways. One is do it on your own or sell something.
Yep.
Sell something that you get paid on commission sales based on your effort. That's the two ways to make real money. Because if you're always working for the man or working for a W-2, which I did for 25 years, there's a max to it.
Yep.
There's a max to it. And you know this. Man, I just got down a rabbit hole here, but there's no loyalty anymore. Companies aren't loyal to employees. Employees aren't loyal to
Your
companies.
job posting will be in the newspaper before your
That's right.
obituary.
And the minute you're dispensable, you're done. And a lot of guys want to believe that they're indispensable. And the minute you start believing that
You're gone.
is when the bad stuff starts happening, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, it's been a major shift in like a lot of stuff. You
Yeah.
see guys back in the day would run 30, 40 years at the same
Exactly.
company and they'd be able to rise all the way up through the ranks. Now people are doing 2 to 5 and they're coming back after another 3 way ahead of where they would have been if they'd stayed the whole time.
Well, and
What
you
is that shift?
think of the pensions and things there's no such thing anymore.
Yeah.
I read an article. This is good stuff. I read an article just the other day that said, I can't quote it, but I can't even believe it, really. It said that the average 35-year-old male has 7 careers by that point. Not 7 jobs, 7 paths. Like they've gone 7 ways. That's a lot of ways.
I think I'm at 4.
How old are you?
This would be 5, 33.
Oh, you better get on it. You gotta
Below average.
You gotta get a few more careers in. I could believe 7 jobs, but I had a hard time believing 7. But the point is, it makes the point though that there's some good and bad. The way that as connected as we are now with social media and online and AI and all the things we have, it's a good thing in the fact that there's so much more possible than what it was. But there's a dark side that comes with that too, in my opinion. But anyway, that's how I got where I'm at. And I've done a lot of, I kind of got my hands in a lot of different business. I'm really big on diversified revenue. I feel like guys like you work hard, you got your money coming in. And then you got this on the side. You got money coming. And the more pots you have, when the government decides they're going to shut you down like they did me in COVID, all my friends that are in the event business were suffering. I mean, we went from 200 events to 0 in one day. All my employees had to be let go. It was sad. It was really, and it was just the government deciding one day. I decided right then and there, I'm like, I'm not going to be. Now, we were able to survive because we had other things, and I'm a debt-free guy.
Yep.
I'm like, no debt. I don't want any debt. I'm going to never have any debt. I try not to borrow money for anything, even business ventures. And I know that that's probably not the best way for a lot of guys because, you make money with other people's money. I get it. But when COVID comes knocking and all of a sudden you got all these debt payments and you got no revenue, we were able just to turn the lights off and weather the storm.
Yeah.
But a lot of people weren't and or couldn't.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a little bit about that.
And so you ran Ironman, right?
I did.
You were
We were just talking about last night. There's a guy that I'm staying within the room that's just done a couple Ironmans as well, and we were talking about
Like, and no,
shaving our legs.
no offense, Mark. Like, looking at you now,
Dude, I know. That's right. People look, I'm like, yeah. So believe it or not, I used to be a lot smaller, but not a lot smaller. I was a huge triathlete. So when I raced about between 175 and 190, which is huge for a triathlete, right? And
I mean, you're only what, 5'8",
5'9", yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably a stretch. No, that's not true. I truly am about 5'9". And but anyway, I've always been a really gifted. God gave me a really good gift of athleticism, right? And so I played high school, obviously. I played college football. I ran college track. I played 15 years of rugby, pretty high level rugby. And so I always did these sports where big was important, or bigger,
but
muscular,
still fast.
right? Still had to have all the other
Mobile.
stuff, right? So I got divorced from my first wife, and I was in this funk. And I was at the gym, I'm riding the bike, and this dude that I knew, he says, "Dude, we should do a triathlon." I'm like, "Yeah, we should." I said, "Can you swim?" I'm like, "No." He said, "Well, we can learn how to swim." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So, of course, if you know my personality, so triathlon is swim, bike, run event, right? If you don't know that. But triathlon is not only Ironman. There's little triathlons, big, all different levels, right? So what do? Well, we sign up for the Ironman. If we're going to do it, go big or go home.
Right.
I'm going to sign up, then learn how to swim.
So
after.
I signed up for my first Ironman, and I couldn't swim across the pool at that point. So I had time, right? I mean, I had 6 months.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a lot of time.
So I met my wife at about this time, and I was at the pool. And she swam, in high school, college kind of stuff. She's a great swimmer. She goes, you want me to take a look at your stroke? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I need some. That'd be great. So we go to the pool, and this is a 25-yard pool, right? I start swimming across. I make it halfway. I stand up, and I swim the rest of the way, and I turn around, come back to her, and I stand up, come back. She says, "All right, hold on." Because when you're stopping in the middle, are you doing that because you have to or because you want to? Like, well, yeah, I can't make it yet. She says, and you know that Ironman's 57 times this pool, right? In open water.
And there's no bottom.
And there's no bottom. I'm like, yeah, I know. I got a couple months to get ready. So she convinced me at that point to get some professional help. And so then that was my triathlon career got started. And I didn't die in the first one. And I've done 12 in that series, in that 15-year period. My wife, we traveled all over the world. We got married in 2002. And part of my marriage agreement, I didn't ever want to get married again. I hope she's not going to watch this one. I really didn't. I was really burned on my first marriage, and I just, I was a woman hater at that, whatever, and I just had a bad attitude. But she kind of put the pressure on me, and it was I either get married or she's going to leave kind of thing, and I couldn't let her leave, right? So I said, okay, I'll do it. But
best decision he's made.
It was, man. It was. Oh, man, it was. And I said, okay, honey, if we're going to get married, then I've been wanting to do this Ironman Brazil race. And I said, let's go to Brazil for our honeymoon. I'll do the Ironman. And then after my Ironman, we'll stay for a while. Okay, great. So I started training for this Ironman in Brazil. And I was training hard. And I was 35 at the time, 37. And I don't know if you guys know much about it, but for endurance athletes, that's the pinnacle age, right? So I'm racing against the best of the best in the world at that age. So, shit, being able to qualify to go to the World Championships at that age is incredibly difficult. And so it was kind of a pipe dream, to be honest. But I wanted to do it. But I was not. When people looked at me, you're like, you're not the average triathlete, right?
They're like,
I'm like,
4 or 5 inches
I'm huge,
taller,
right? And I'm like
1
giant.
pound less.
And when you're doing endurance, that muscle is not helpful.
No.
It takes a lot of blood. It takes a lot of energy out of your system to support that muscle mass. And so that's one of the reasons that you don't see these big dudes running marathons and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, train. So anyway, through the training process, my wife comes to me, she says, I think I'm going to do it with you too. And I'm like, she always said she would never do an Ironman. She goes, if I don't get to the finish line, I don't care. I'll just quit. And I'm going to do it just for the experience. I'm like, okay. So we start training, and I'll be dang, we show up in Brazil, and I had a problem off the bike, but other than that, I had my best race ever, and I had a great time, but I didn't know you don't know where you stand.
Yeah.
The award ceremony's the next day. So we go the next day, and Amy's age group, and Amy did freaking unbelievable. Like, I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, she goes, I felt great all day. I'm like, holy crap, honey. I mean, for her first shot, right? So anyway, they call her name, and she gets a slot to the World Championship.
Oh.
And we are losing our shit, right? We're jumping up. I mean, I'm like, and you have to pay cash.
Yeah.
On the site. You got 1 minute. So we had my money, because I was hoping, I didn't know if I got a slot, but I was hoping. So anyway, we get her slot, and I'm like, we totally forgot about my age group coming up. I was so excited about her getting this slot. Because I mean, if you're the triathletes that are listening to this podcast, they know what I'm saying. It is a very big hurdle to go to Kona. So anyway, a few minutes later, they're in my age group, and I get a slot. I'm like, I can't even believe it. I'm the last dude. I got the last slot in my age group, and I outran a guy. I'm kind of making this long story, but on the red carpet, going into the finish line, there was a dude in front of me.
You got him.
And he had a 36 on his calf. They put your age on your calf. And I saw him, I'm like, oh, I come this far, I might as well take this dude down. So I took off sprinting. I'm a sprinter, right? I took off behind him, and when he saw my calf, he took off. So him and I, we're going, and the last second, I edged this dude out. So literally, I beat him by a second in a 10-hour race. Came down to a second. Okay, so you don't think much about those moments, right? At the award ceremony, he said right next to me, I got the slot. Dude, he was destroyed. He lost the slot by 1 second. So anyway, then I didn't have any money. And so this random dude gives me the money.
Wow.
So anyway, we're one of the few husband-wife couples that qualified for and went to the World Championships in the same year.
That's awesome.
And we both did terrible in Kona. It was so hot in Hawaii. They don't say it's brutal, but it is freaking brutal. My shoes, I wore a pair, they're called Newtons, and nobody even knows what those are now. I'm so old, but we were running on an old airport runway right off the bat, off the bike. And it was so hot, it melted the tread on my shoes.
Ooh.
Wow. So anyway, that's my Ironman story. So,
Yeah.
But
Well, that's kind of turned into your hunting now, chasing around, calling.
well, here's the thing, guys. I was a decent triathlete, but I wasn't a great triathlete because I wasn't built for a triathlon, right? But I worked hard at it. I learned how to suffer. And in backcountry hunting, I'm 58 years old. There's not many 58-year-olds that, and I'm not bragging, there's not many doing what I'm doing right now. Not many.
Watching you guys' bear hunts last year, I ain't just,
But again, it's not that I'm fitter. It's not that I have an ability to go deep when it gets rough. And I'm like, all right, Lampers is going there. I'm freaking not. I'm going. Right. And so hooking up with those two guys, Brian Call and Ryan Lampers, has been one of the better things for me because it's put me back into that mode where, well, I'm super competitive, and they are too, right? And they give me a lot of shit about how old I am and all, but I mean, I'm not always the first one to the top of the hill. Well, I'm never the first one to the top of the hill, but
you're getting to the top.
I'm getting to the top of the hill, and I'm in sight. I'm not like being dropped. So anyway, it's a guys that are thinking about doing this kind of stuff, that are watching this or whatever, that have not really done serious backcountry or are nervous about it. Guys, it's like how you eat it's one bite at a time. And I'm telling you, the Ironman, I talk a lot about, I used to talk a lot about it, speak at a lot of different things, and when people well, how did you get your swim, bike, run? I said, forget about that. Swim, bike, run is easy. What's the hard part is the mental and the nutrition.
Yep.
So it's a 10-hour race for a fast dude, like a really fast dude. And it's a 17-hour race for the slowest people. And that's a big difference. 7 hours is a big difference, right? So what I'm saying is you can tackle all the training you want, but if you can't mentally, blisters, like, dude, I race in a Speedo. And in the salt, in the ocean swims, you get salt.
No.
Dude, it was, I mean, you might as well put a 30 grit sandpaper in your pants, right?
I mean, I don't know what's worse.
For 10 straight hours.
Speedo or imagining that paint.
Are you ready? Do you post this on YouTube?
We're
That's
gonna
the
try
plan,
it.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna send you a few photos.
Yeah.
And at this point, we'll splice in some of my triathlon photos.
All right.
And I think you're gonna be like, that's not the same dude.
It's not the same. I have seen those photos.
Oh, you have?
I think someone had a black and white somewhere. You like coming up out of the ocean. Like,
So Lambert says I used AI to make those. But you guys get my point is learning how to suffer. And I don't mean in a way where you're going to hurt yourself. I mean, just be freaking tough. You're going to get wet. Your boots are going to get wet. Your socks are wet. It's all dealable.
Yeah.
Get your mind right and get out there. Then there's never going to be a good time. Everybody's like, I'm going to start doing it when I get in shape.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to start doing it when X, Y, Z. Let me tell you, my biggest regret is not retiring and moving to Montana 10 years before I did. And if I had to do it over again, I would have done it way sooner. I've been coming out. This will be my 34th year hunting elk. So I've been traveling from the Midwest to the West, long time, right? But living in it and being immersed in it now is such an incredible blessing. And for the past 10 years, I've gotten to spend, I think last year I was 125 days in a tent. And
well, and that's with your kids, your family.
there's some family in there,
friends,
yeah.
like
It's not all backcountry hunting.
Yeah,
About 100 of that is
it's all out in the
hunting,
woods,
right? And about 100 of that is hunting. I do about 50, let's just call it 50 days of spring, bear, things like that, and then about 50 days of elk, mule deer, late season, that kind of stuff. But I'm blessed, and I'm going to do it as long as I freaking can, because I know the clock's ticking, and my son's 14. So he's either going to be my death nail or he's going to be my fountain of youth. There's only two ways it's going to go.
Yeah.
And before last year, he was getting after it, right? The dude's super talented athletically.
Go figure. Both.
And but he's soft. He was not mentally there. But last year, I started seeing a turn on the mule deer hunt. I'm like, oh shit. I was hoping I had a little more time. But he's like, Dad. So he killed a tank last year. And we saw it 3 different days. And the last day we saw it, he was about 4 miles away. And he goes, we got time to get there. I'm like, dude, we had about an hour left of dark. There's no way we're getting there. He goes, well, in the morning we're going over there. I'm like, dude, he's in the wide open. The chance of him being there is 0. He goes, we're going. I'm like, all right. We get in the morning, we hike in there, shit. He's still there. By the same bush. And then he made a 630-yard shot on this deer. He's an incredible shot. And before everybody starts saying, hey, I've taken him to the range 3 or 4 times before that hunt. And we have a steel plate at 660. And I've never seen him miss it.
That's awesome.
He's never missed it once. And usually we paint an orange dot and 3 inches, and he's rarely out of the dot at 660. And this is what'll blow your mind. 300 Win Mag, teacup, factory gun, factory ammo. And he's money.
Good scope. Good.
Joel Turner worked with him. I had a couple, this friend that I met all in, a couple guys have worked with him, like Brady Miller's like his idol. I hope he gets more excited about archery. But right now he likes to kill stuff with a gun.
Yeah. Well,
And
you can reach out to 600-700 yards. It's
well, and not only that, but when you have kids and you're hunting, success is important.
Oh yeah.
And you know archery, you guys know how that. I mean, there's so many things that go wrong, right?
Bow hiking.
Especially for a young kid that's going to be new at it. But he's been with me. His favorite story to tell is me missing a giant bull at point blank range. I hit a spruce tree, and he keeps saying, "Dad, I told you that tree was there." I'm like, "Dude, I know, I hear you." And but he's been with me on a couple epic archery hunts when he was a little bit younger. But now he's got the mule deer bug. That dude, Lambers has already ruined him. He is really addicted. I say, "Hey, you're gonna draw 2 really good elk tags this year." Well, what about my mule deer tags? All right. He's interested in elk, but he loves mule deer.
get him into archery
Yeah.
a little bit, and then because that really kicks off that elk addiction.
Oh, he likes the whole bugling, the knowing, you know.
Chess game.
Now I'm trying to switch my tactics to more of a. I've learned a lot from Ryan. The spot and stalk, the calling in of giant bulls is becoming much more difficult.
Yeah.
You still call in a lot of bulls, but these next level herd bulls are just not callable in a lot of situations. And you have to adapt to a spot stock style. Not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy with 40 elk looking at you, right? But you watch Brian Barney, Ryan Lampers, all these dudes that are killing these public land giants. They're not calling them in. They're not calling them in. They're finding them. And not only are they finding them, they're living with them for 10 days, 12 days. Lampers, he'll stay on a bull for 10 days or more until that bull makes a mistake. He's not seeing it and going after it like most dudes would. Most dudes see a 375 bull, they'd be like, "Let's go.
Guilty.
Let's go, go, go."
Yep.
And he's like, "No, the wind, this, that." Oh, and like the bull he killed last year, he watched this bull cross these drainages. There was like multiple drainages this bull could take, and he was taking with his cows. He was taking a different one every day. He was just totally unpredictable. But then finally, he had a couple of days in a row where he got to the similar path. There was Ryan waiting for him, but he waited the patience on a bull like that. I don't know if I got it enough to wait that long, right?
I don't have the patience.
I'd be afraid somebody's going to come in. Some hunter's going to mess it up.
I'm going to bugle at him.
That's right. I mean, I love to call
I'm
elk.
going to challenge that guy because I want to fight.
Well, you guys gave me your bugle holder, and I still call.
Yeah.
And especially with my son, I mean, he needs to kill some bulls. I mean, who cares what they are, right?
Yeah.
So we still do it. Well, I called my bull in this year, which in a place that normally you cannot call bulls. But this bull was by himself. He was lonely. You could tell it the way he was acting. And I thought, I did a calf, like almost like a lost calf. And I did it. And not only that, I called this is crazy about this, is I called this bull 6 times in to within 75 yards 6 different times. And I've never had that happen. And the bull smelled me on the 3rd time, and I still called him back in.
Put a pin in that real quick because our camera only does 30-minute videos.
Okay. I know mine does the same.
Yeah, it's annoying.
These freaking.
Okay, we're good.
Did we run out?
Nope.
Okay.
Beautiful. We got another 30 minutes.
Don't worry, I've been keeping my eye.
You're gonna help me. I mean, are we on the right path, or you kind of want to
No,
get?
that's
Yeah,
perfect,
okay.
perfect.
No, we are perfect.
Because I think a lot of guys, I get a lot of questions like, man, for example, the biggest question I get is my age. I mean, and I used to hate it. I used to not even tell people how old I was. I don't want people knowing I'm older. I'd like to think I don't look that old,
You age pretty well, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I've done, and it ain't because I've taken care of myself. It's not that. I got an amazing wife that is super dialed on what we eat and what we put in our bodies. And I've always been a little focused on that, but I mean, I drink a few beers. Lambers doesn't. I do. But anyway, I have not lived the most sheltered of life, so I'm blessed in that. But the biggest question I get is from older dudes. Hey, my schedule is my work is not as much as it used to be. I'm going to get to hunt more, all the things, right? He goes, but man, I'm really behind the curve, and I just don't know how you do it. I'm like, here's the reality. The older you get, and I know people know this, but they forget it. It seems like they forget. You cannot let up when you're older. Like when I was your age, doing triathlons, dude, I could lay off 4 months, which I did a lot.
Back up and go right.
And then and within a month, I'd be back in the game.
Yep.
Not at 58. And if you lay off, like right now, I've got a bursa on my Achilles. I'm fighting a bursa, and bear season's coming, and I'm trying to. This is the first time I've had boots on in probably 2 months.
Yikes.
And I tried to wear it. Just standing on this floor, and this expo was killing me yesterday. So I said, I got to wear my boots, even though it's going to be painful. But anyway, my point is, every little injury, every little thing, when you get older, it's a real setback. But you've got to stay in the game all the time, 365 days a year. And I don't mean going to the gym every day. I don't mean killing yourself every day. But I mean taking a spinning class every other day, keeping your body moving and active, hiking, walking, whatever, every day, or not maybe, but multiple times a week, 365. And if you do that and ingrain that in, you're going to be, because we lose flexibility, we get sore when we're older. You know, everybody's like, oh man, we get out of our tent. It's like,
wait, that happens when you get old?
Guys, it happens to everybody, right? But it's more when you're older.
Oh God.
Well, it's pretty funny. The people that we run into too, they're just like, okay, so like, how do I get into this? How do I get to that level? It's just like, well, what are you doing today?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm not doing anything. It's like, well, you should be doing something.
Start something.
It's like, I don't know if I want to. You know, I don't want to be like out hiking with Wade in the middle of summer. It's like, then you're not going to make it.
Yeah, you're not going to make it. And so like a lot of backcountry guys like, well, I'm CrossFit. I do CrossFit. I'm like, that's great.
What else are you doing?
But that ain't going to do it. Because I'm telling you, I have crushed multiple dudes at my age coming out of cross. They're like buff, ripped. But when they put that pack on their back and they start hiking them down these hills with boots on they haven't been wearing, their muscles are like, whoa, this is not what I'm normally doing.
And I think it's a different mental mentality too. Like CrossFit, it's 18 minutes.
Right.
Elk hunting is 4 days of suck.
That's right.
Like it's a whole.
It's a mental, like we just talked.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, CrossFit is a great backcountry tool, but it's a tool. But I'd like to see guys doing CrossFit 2 or 3 days a week, and then I'd throw your pack on a couple days a week. If you did that, like I got this dude, he's not gonna listen to this, I hope. He comes out every year from Missouri. He's one of my best friends. We're the same age. The dude he bikes, he still does triathlon, ultra skinny, ultra fit. But I crushed that dude with a pack because he's not using that weight, and for some reason he won't wear it. Like he won't do it. But he's fit. Now the good news is the dude is so fit that he can recover and kind of deal with it.
When he's got the mental game.
Right, and he's tough because he's been out here for a lot of years. He knows what he's getting into. But point is, there's no replacement for putting that pack on your back and hiking up and down Blue Mountain in Missoula, right?
Yep.
Or wherever you go, the M
My
or whatever.
wife judges me in the summer because I'll start throwing the weighted pack on. I'm wearing shorts and we'll go. She likes hiking up Petty Canyon.
Yeah, that's a great spot.
Tall grass and stuff, and I get itchy. So I'm hiking in like short shorts. Got my gaiters on.
Like Speedo?
No, Hoochie Daddies.
Almost.
Ranger panties, 3-inch short. I got a lot of thigh to show. But she's like, you look like such a dude right now, and I'm like, I don't care.
That's the point.
That's kind of the point.
Man.
Bro tag, short shorts, gaiters.
If you're going to do it, look good, man. I mean, come on. And but yeah, put your pack on. And so what I recommend a lot, if you guys can afford it and you can do it, what I have found a very successful formula, a little tip here, is even if it's not the pack you wear every day when you're hunting, if you have a second pack that you can keep loaded with some weight, that just sits there. So there's no excuses. You just can grab that pack and go. I'm not going to name names, but this pack that I don't like anymore is always sitting there on the floor, right, with 30 or 40 pounds, whatever I want to do. And that way, because a lot of guys are like, they used it for a trip, and they don't have the weight in it. It's easy just to go.
It's too much.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So if you have an old pack, and I'm even going to go one step further. I think there's a benefit that I have found with using multiple packs, because in triathlon, I used to wear multiple shoes. So in a week, I would run 60, 70 miles a week on average, right? And I would run with 3 to 4 pairs of different shoes, because my feet, the muscles and the small micro tendons in my feet would just get different looks, different workouts, switching these shoes. And I found that I could stay healthier and injury-free better with these multiple shoes. It's the same with the pack. If you have a Kafaru pack or initial ascent, well, you should have initial ascent, but if whatever you got, if you have access to another one, an old one, whatever, don't neglect it. I know you love your initial ascent, which I love mine, but there is a real benefit to throwing those other packs on.
Well, and to that point, like we used to run Mystery Ranch, and then Dennis did the weight challenge, and it was just so easy putting that heavier weight in the initial ascent pack. So to that point of train with the harder pack, right? Train with even just the weight on your back, right? Because then when you do put that pack on, it's easier.
Yeah, and I'm saying that, take that same principle, but I'm saying that switch it up to the point where it's actually stressing your body in different ways.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You're carrying the weight in different places,
right?
Your shoulders and your hips.
Even the most micro, and you know how when you go on a hike, this is another thing I do. Everybody gets their stuff all. No, don't hook your weight belt. Carry your 30 pounds with just your shoulders. When you're training,
because that's uncomfortable.
And don't do it a lot, right? But dude, you do a big climb with no weight belt, with your weight belt unstrapped, your shoulders are gonna be like, dude, you're training those shoulders. So don't make it perfect every time, and then training your boots, guys. So many guys go out with their tennis shoes and hike around. Get your boots, or get and again, if you've got multiple pair of boots, wear them all. Because think about that, you got your Laponias, which are like wearing freaking tennis shoes, but then all of a sudden, if you're going to steeper country or something, you want to wear something a little stiffer, you could get a blister because you have not been training in boots that are rubbing your feet in other places. So one thing, I know I keep talking about this triathlon, but I've learned so many things. So in triathlon, one of the things that I did was I never wore socks because they would get wet, sweat, and they would be a rubbing spot, right? Well, running barefooted for a marathon is not easy. And if you try it without practicing a lot, you're going to have problems. So I never, ever put a pair of socks on when I trained. And I ran barefoot a lot. Like I would go into grassy slopes and I would run barefoot. I did a lot of my skip training. A lot of my running was barefooted. And I'm not recommending that necessarily for, I don't know. I haven't tried it with my backpacking. But my point is going with different socks, going with no socks, going with different boots. Guys, these are all things that are going to improve because you do not, anything you can do to reduce any chance of a blister in the backcountry is a bonus. I mean, I don't care what kind of man you are. Those blisters can humble the toughest of some bitches.
I mean, you look back at, I packed for the chefs in the Bob Marshall as a guide for them for a couple seasons. And, we have all these great big giant jack mules. And they had a couple mules that were Clydesdale crosses. Just huge mules. And everyone's always like, you can load so much on that mule. It's like, no, you can't. We're going 80 pounds a side. That's it on every animal you pack because you need to have that balance. And you would see guys, some of the younger guides would come in and they'd have the pack's off by 10 pounds. Like whatever, like you need to put a rock.
If you really carry a rock, then off balance.
We don't need to. We had this one mule named Mom, big old white girl, and this one kid was like, Nick, don't let him take her. Put her in the front. She's a great lead mule. She's done it for years. 5 pounds off on his pack balance. We get back and she had a wound the size of a baseball from that pack rubbing. Pack sore. She didn't pack the rest of the season because we had to stop and let that recover. So it's not size that mattered, right? And, she's been doing that all. It's just it was shifted. It wasn't right. And that the smallest pin can take out the largest animal.
That's right. And it's another thing. We're on the subject is. When you feel a hot spot, you stop right then.
Fix it.
And get it dealt with. If I'll do it when I get to the top. Or I'll take care of it when I get to camp. Guys, I have seen guys literally almost crawl back to their trucks and quit because of foot problems.
Yeah.
Massive foot problems. And, I haven't had very many cases of dealing with it, but because I work so hard on different boots and no socks. And guys thinking about putting their boots on with no socks is like, I bet you nobody's even thought about that.
I haven't. I'm always like,
now, let's be honest. You don't want to do it and go out and freaking just wreck your feet. But if you do a mile, do a half a mile, slowly get into it.
House first.
If you get your feet conditioned, you'd be surprised what they can take. But these soft feet, guys that really, like, I'm not very good. I can't walk on gravel barefooted. It kills me, right?
Yeah. My wife makes fun of me.
My kids can run across it, right? And I'm like, and because I've gotten soft. But when I did triathlon as much barefoot as I could do it. But I'm not saying that's a good idea either. I'm just saying that these are small little steps that can help really, because guys, success in the backcountry, there is no silver bullet. There's no one thing. Because I get guys, hey, what's the most important thing I need to do to kill an elk? When it comes to finding elk, I'm just having trouble finding elk. So I have this e-scouting course, right? And I get this question. I get your course. I don't want to, what he's saying is I don't want to watch the whole thing. Just give me the cliff notes and tell me what's the magic, what's the one thing. There's no one thing. I call it, in the course I call it odds multiplication. It's about stacking up all these odds. And these are some of those odds. If you feel better, if you're fitter, if your feet feel amazing, if everything fits good and you have no problems, your hunt is going to be better. And when you're not seeing animals or things, you're able to deal with it better than when you're not seeing animals and you got 2 blisters. That's a formula for going home early.
Oh, yeah.
So, and this is not just if you're 58 years old. This applies to everybody. And like, I don't like Ryan and Brian, right? You never see those guys with blisters.
Yeah.
Because they pay attention. They take care of things. They really know. They're dialed on their socks. They're dialed on this. They're dialed on that. They've got their system. And we all work our own individual systems, right? But we also learn from each other, right? Hey, how are you doing that? What are you doing there? And guys that you're surrounded with, learn from things that they're doing. Hopefully you guys will pick up a few things today, but you're going to learn from guys that I always, even in my sports career, I love to surround myself with guys that are tougher and better than me. Because it moves me up a level, right? When I'm with guys that are lesser or weaker or whatever than me, I tend to fall into their ranks. I tend to kind of like digress down to that level. No offense.
Come to the level of the competition, right?
Yeah.
I'm the same way. If I went out and hunted with you guys, I'd kill myself before I
you'd
admitted
be, dude,
that I'm not going to do it.
You'd be there, in it. The video, we make it look tougher than it is.
I saw the sweat coming off you on that bear hunt.
The blonde bear? Dude. You know what? I'm gonna say something about that right now. Those bastards always want to put the mic. So I've had 13 throat surgeries. So that's one of the reasons my voice kind of like this.
Just because you're such a...
No, I'm a sexy dude, but part of it is I've had throat. So I've got these polyps on my throat, my vocal cords that I have to have lasered off. And I just had it like a few months ago. But anyway, so I'm always dealing with it. And it creates this like raspy, and that causes like excess phlegm. I don't get into it, but the point is, sometimes I sound like I'm dying when I'm not really dying.
Yep.
And I'm not saying I wasn't dying on that hunt. I'm just saying, but what those bastards always do to me is they clip the mic like this right on top of my bino harness.
Yep.
Because they want to hear me breathing hard. It's like, and then when they edit the films, Lamberts, they take his out. They leave every moment of my heavy breathing in. That film, I looked like I was going, and it was rough, but I watched it. I'm like, I'm about ready to keel over.
They just really want everyone to understand the gravity of this moment.
Dude, that was a brutal down and up. I mean, I shot that bear from one side. We had to go down, wrap the river. We had to climb up the other side. It was about a 1,500 to 1,700 foot drop, and about 1,500 up. I shot that bear at, don't quote me on these exact, about 11 o'clock in the morning. It was about midnight before we got back to the truck for a bear.
Yeah,
and it was not a big bear. So blonde bears, that was my first blonde bear. Blonde bears they're like the unicorn of bear, right?
It's a great white buffalo.
But they never get big. Genetically wise, they're kind of like those cactus bucks or, like piebald deer. But there's some genetic deficiency. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I've never heard of or seen. Well, I haven't seen very many anyway. But other guys that have killed, they just don't ever get that big. This bear was pretty nice, but he wasn't the normal giant. Oh yeah,
bigger.
But I wanted that blonde. When I saw that blonde bear, we were about several thousand yards. He just was glowing like a freaking light bulb over there.
So pretty. Need to touch.
Dude, and then I'm with the camera guy, and I'm like, let's go. It's time. And so we had to go back to camp. We had to hike back 2 miles to camp to grab the rafts. We were sharing rafts with Lampert's call. And so we went down, got on that river. Thank goodness the river wasn't raging yet. It was still cool, but you notice in the film how much I was sweating. It was warming.
Well, we had a warm up pretty quick last spring.
Yeah, and so the problem is, when that snow starts to melt, those little rivers can turn into chocolate milk.
I kayak them.
Like next day.
Yeah.
Or within hours.
Yeah, you show up.
And I can't tell you how many guys go across something and then can't get back. So you got to think through all that. And we're working on this bear course, and we have an entire module. Ryan and I have talked a lot about this. It's techniques because Ryan's done a lot of river work with his guiding in Russia. He guided in Russia, and so he really understands rivers and the flows and the crossing and depths and how fast it's too fast and all this. So I think a lot of bear hunters don't realize the dangers of that situation. Not only because it's fast water, but the temperature of that water and how long you can actually be in that water, right? So, but anyway, yeah, that they always put the mic on the top of my freaking pack, and then when they edit the films. See, one of the things about producing these films, too, guys, that you may not know, those little inside secret is they never let the guy that's getting filmed watch the film before it freaking gets released.
You can see it when it premieres.
When I see it,
we're doing you right.
When I see that film, it's the same moment you guys see the film, and I'm horrified. I'm like, what the hell? They didn't even cut my mic.
They weren't filming when I was doing that.
They didn't even cut I don't care about the filming, but just cut my mic as we're going up the freaking vertical, right?
I don't remember doing any of that.
Well, so I got two questions that we'll try to end every podcast. It's a school of hard knocks, and I think there's been a ton of good snippets and lessons.
We've gone all over the place, but I think there's some good things in there.
There's a lot of good things in here. So the first question we usually ask is, new hunter, and it could even be geared towards we're gearing our conversations more towards our age, right?
Yeah.
Late onset adult. Let's go even later adult. Pretend I'm a 50-year-old guy. I'm bald.
You mean old?
Then I'm old. Mark, I have a budget.
Yeah.
What is, I have a budget, I have a weapon that, it's satisfying. Intended archery. I have a bow, I'm okay with it out to 50 yards. What's my next piece of equipment, gear, that I need to focus on, that I need to worry about making sure I spend a little bit more time and effort on finding the right one, the right fit, the right. What's the next priority other than my weapon?
Okay, well, people aren't going to like this because we're at a Hunt Expo, and that's all we're doing is selling gear. Guys, I'm a gear guy too, right? I've got $1 million. My wife thinks I have two problems. Well, she thinks I got more than two, but she thinks I got two major problems. That I have a boot problem and a tent. And now she thinks I got a sleeping bag problem. So, meaning I've got probably 20 different tents, probably 15 to 20 sleeping bags, and boots. So my son, we got this big fight in my house one time because my family was ganging up on me on my boot. Like I'm a girl. I got a whole closet full of boots.
My wife and I had this conversation recently where I have more pairs of boots than she does.
That's what my wife was saying. And I'm like, I hardly have any down there. Eli's like, Dad, that's a lie. You got, and so that little bastard, while we're sitting there, he goes downstairs, gets in my hunting closet, and starts counting all my boots. And then comes back to report. And I'm in the 40-ish range of pairs of boots. And he's like, Dad, you got 40X pairs of boots downstairs. I'm like,
I do?
that was a little shocking, to be honest. And so what I'm going to tell you next, though, guys, is don't stress about the gear. Now, will you be more comfortable? Yes. Will it make your hunt a little better? Yes, it will do all that. But don't wait to do things until you have perfect gear. I see so many guys spend so much time on gear, so much time on, all the things that don't matter. In my opinion, there's two ways to become a better, let's just say elk, a better backcountry elk hunter. There's only two ways. One is through experience, where you just got to get out there and do it. And second, and I'm not trying to sell my course, guys. I'll go a little bit further in a second, but is education.
Yep.
Okay, and this is going to be shocking to you. Let's take Ryan Lampers. I'm not going to use myself as an example, but a lot of people want to be Ryan. Who doesn't? The dude kills everything, right? But the problem is they have no chance, and this is why. The average dude coming from the Midwest or from even out in Montana that works so hard and has got a family and he gets 10 days to hunt a year. Oh, so he takes 10 days and he gets after it, right? Ryan hunts 100. So every year that you put in elk hunting, he puts in 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You cannot. There's one of my favorite girls right there in the world. Don't tell my wife that. So every year that you put in, Ryan's got 10 on you. So in 10 years,
he's got 100.
He's got 100 years of experience. Versus, there's no way to make up for that, but there is. If you're listening to this podcast, it's a good start. You're educating yourself. So in the lack of experience, the best thing you can do is to increase your education. And a lot of that is learning how to find places and identify places and break them down and all the things, right? And I found that was a real problem for a lot of guys. Like, they had the best gear, they had the best thing, and they're going, man, I hunted 10 days, I never saw an elk. I'm like, holy crap.
Were you in the same area?
I can't even imagine. I've never hunted 10 days and not seen an elk.
We don't see elk.
You got to make a move or whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is, they maybe they just didn't put themselves in the right spot, or maybe it was just a bad spot.
Yeah.
But that when that happens, it's because of an education or an experience situation. You can't. There's no way you can speed up your experience unless you're capable of taking more time. But if you only have 14 days or whatever you got, if that's whatever you got, don't worry about it. But use that time to get further yourself. Elk 101, Eat My Stuff, whatever. Guys, all these podcasts. So if you want to take my course for free, basically, I've got 90, after this one, it'll be 92 or 3 podcasts that I've been on that are organized on my website for free. If you listen to every one, you're going to get most of what's in my course.
You just won't get the toolbox kit for Google.
It's just, and it's not in order, right? There's little, we dropped a few things, but it is possible. And I'm not saying podcasts are the end, but it's a tool that was not around when I started hunting.
You had to go talk to the old guy at the bar to get this.
Dude, and I'm from Missouri. How many bars do you think I walked in and met an elk hunter?
Seriously.
0. In Missouri?
It didn't happen.
Dude, the only elk hunting knowledge I got was going out there and just doing it. And I just started, I early on figured out that I have to stay out here months.
I got to be here before.
I got to be here 2 months. To really go where I want to go, I got to be out here 2 months. So I started rearranging my life to where I could go for a month or 2. And now I go for 3, 4 months and a year. And but I still don't do scouting to this day. Last thing I'll say is boots on the ground scouting to me is really not productive. Because if you guys go up in the mountains and you hike around for a weekend, right? You might cover, 20 miles maybe? If you spent that same amount of hours
on the computer
on studying terrain and contour lines and drainages and road accesses, and I'm telling you right now, you will be way, 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 way further down the road. Now, if you've got more time than sense, absolutely go out and do it. But if you've got limited time, start spending a lot of time looking at country digitally. We've got so many digital tools available to us now and their new ones are, like the newest thing I'm really geeking out on is LiDAR imagery. You guys know what this is?
No, not yet.
So there's a technology that's been around for a while in the military, but it's not been civilian, only just not recently, but in a few years. They're using lasers to scan the surface of the earth, and it removes the trees. So this imagery, and a lot of times it's called shaded relief, and guys like, I'm not interested in that. But if you start drilling in on this LiDAR imagery, dude, you can see every rock, every cliff band, every freaking. So when it comes to routes, you can route, because in the trees on aerials you can't see.
Yeah.
You can see the trees, but you can't really see what's
under those
what's
trees.
going on here. Is there ditches? Is there whatever? So, dude, I'm working on a module for the course now, that new module on it. I've got most of it written, but I have been geeking out on this LiDAR imagery. So, like Spartan Forge has a really good LiDAR. Caltobo has a good LiDAR. Not many platforms have it. That's the only platforms I know that have it right now, but it's coming. Oh, and Gaia has a little bit of LiDAR. But this technology is getting better and better and better. Sorry, I'm dragging out your answer. But educate yourself. As far as gear, your pack and your boots.
Yep.
If it's two things that you have to make sure, now the weapon obviously, but guys, I don't care if you shoot 30 yards.
Yep.
30's fine.
People have been killing stuff that's so stick and string.
Dude, I've only killed a handful of elk out past 30. Now my bull this year I killed at 55.
That one was so cool.
That's one of the longer shots, and the only reason I shot that far was because I was in really open country and I couldn't get him any closer. But guys, if you're hunting, if you're calling, and you're going to get a lot of opportunities at 30 or less. So don't stress about that. Just be good at what you're doing, and educate yourself.
So then, question number 2 is, what is your biggest, hardest lesson learned hunting? Like, what is your school of hard knocks, the moment where you're like, if you're talking to a new hunter and say, dude, this is the one thing, if you take any lesson away from me, this is the one lesson I want you to actually listen to.
Okay, that's an easy one. You never, under no circumstances, under any scenario, under anything, unless it's something's wrong with your family and you got to go, you never leave a hunt early. No matter what. Because if you start doing it, it becomes easier. It's like if you like Twinkies, right? When you eat that first Twinkie,
Oreos.
the second one is like, well, I already ate one, might as well eat 2. And then all of a sudden, you're eating Twinkies every day.
So Mark's favorite food is Twinkies, everybody.
I'm just saying, and I know I brought up Ryan, because one, I respect Ryan, but 2, I study Ryan like a science project.
He kind of is a science.
Because he's a guys, pay attention to what he does. He doesn't talk much, he doesn't say much, but what he does say is important. So pay close. Any podcast he's ever been on, you should listen, but you should listen carefully. But anyway, I'm just saying, you know how many giant critters he has killed in the last hour of the last hunt? I talked to a guy yesterday. This is a great story. He come up to the booth yesterday and he says, Mark, last year I was here at the expo and I drew one of the Utah elk tags. I'm like, oh, dude. He goes, it was a once in a lifetime. He goes, and I went out there and I had this 380 bull and I shot. He made a terrible shot. It ricocheted. And the arrow hit the bull in the face. And it was sticking out of his face. And he had video of it the next day. He was trying to get it on it again. He had video that he showed me of the arrow. So anyway, he's dejected. He's upset. He's whatever. And he said, I was down the last day of the season. This happened like towards the end. And he goes, I just want to thank you. I'm like, for what? He goes, you and Brian and Ryan. He goes, I sat in my truck, I'm getting ready to go home, and he goes, they wouldn't quit. And he goes, there was these ponds that were pretty close to my camp, and he goes, I'm just going to go down there for the night. And he killed a giant. Last day at these ponds, and he said, because he just was thinking about somebody else that wouldn't quit. So I talked to dudes, you're never going to go home early to be happy about it.
That's fact.
Right? You're never going to get home and say, man, that was a good decision.
This was great.
Man, I'm glad I pulled the plug.
Well, not even just the think about it in your daily hunts too. Like we're pretty like I would say we are very guilty of let's be back to camp before dark.
Yeah.
We need to change that mentality.
And I say that all, dude, I do it too.
Stay out.
Stay out. And guys, even more important than that, let's just stay out there.
Just be there.
Elk hunting, guys, is 99% boredom and 1% unbelievable, right? And you've got to grind through the 99%. Ryan kills a lot of bulls, right? But do you know how many days it takes him to kill a bull on it? I've seen him do 20 days to get a bull kill.
And that's most guys 2 seasons.
That's right. Yeah. So everybody thinks Ryan runs out in the woods and kills a bull like in the first 20 minutes. No way. Now
the rest of it's not just B-roll where you're just
he's patient. I mean, he'll watch a bull for, like I mentioned earlier, he'll do like unbelievable patient games. But don't. And here's the X thing. One last tip is, you guys always have figured it out. But I'm a solo dude, all right? Until I met these guys, because I couldn't really find my matched partner. Not that I'm tougher, but just that had the time that I have, or that had this, or that had that.
The group that builds everyone up together. Like,
be very careful about who you're hunting with, because they'll either bring you up or they'll bring you down. So when you can find a guy that, I don't even want to say matched physically, because that's not really. Just make sure he's as tough, or even better, tougher than you. And now I know people have friends. I have friends that I hunt with that are not that tough, but I just love them and I want to be around them and I enjoy it, right? But for the most part, I'm very, very, very picky and very careful about who I go into the backcountry with. Just because, or what I'll do, another tip I'll do is, hey, let's drive separate. So you hunt as long as you want, and if you want to go, you don't have to feel like you're just make plans to do that, right? So that's the last thing is just don't quit early ever on a hunt. No animals, not seeing anything. Those are no excuses to quit early. You only got one day. You don't know what to do. Dude, get in the road ditch, hang out.
Do it.
I can't tell you the crazy scenarios things have happened, right? But I see so many guys get frustrated, get out of it mentally. And I was on a couple podcasts with some newer Midwest guys, same thing. They went home early and regretted the whole drive.
Yeah.
And then you're going to think about that failure for 365 days till next September, right? So don't quit early.
That's great.
That's all.
That's huge advice. So, all right, everyone, thank you for watching. Mark, where do we find you?
It's simple now. If you guys, Treeline Pursuits, Instagram, or treelineacademy.net for all like this podcast will be on there, and all the other podcasts I've been on. And I try to organize them in ways, and I try to put keywords where you can search for bears, or if we're doing elk, or talking about e-scouting, or whatever. I've tried to do that, so as soon as you guys put this up, it'll be on there too. Because once the podcast gets done, it kind of like disappears into the abyss, right? So the ones I've tried to organize, because I do feel like I said earlier, I'm serious. I feel like every podcast, even though sometimes we go down the rabbit hole, trap on it, whatever, there's always a few nuggets that you can put together in every one, right? So anyway, appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.